Mayor's Appointment Committee will begin. Can we do a roll call? Do we need to take a roll call? No. Huh? Okay, the date, okay. Today's date is Wednesday, March 11th, 2026, and the time is 1:02. This is the first meeting of the Mayor's Appointment Committee, and all the committee members should have received I sent a couple of things and we printed it out. One, first and foremost, everyone should have received a letter as it relates to our general process when it comes to this committee. One of the things that Ms. Ibukun and myself, we had an opportunity to meet with the mayor's administration to have a conversation of getting our flow together. And in an ideal world, we would like to work very far in advance, about 16 weeks prior to when an expiration comes before us, so we can give the administration and our council enough time to promote that opening so that community members who may be interested may have an opportunity to apply, go through the interview process, and then looking at that time frame between 4 to 8 weeks prior to the expiration date to be able to bring them before our committee and have conversations. And then they will be able to then, if we choose to recommend them, it will take process from there. Beyond that, there was a shared committee agreements that I proposed for council committee members to at least review. I'm not sure if people had an opportunity to review them, but I would like to take a moment to just review what our committee agreements will be, so that everyone will know, and therefore, if there's any conversation, any changes that people will have, we can just talk about them and make adjustments accordingly. So number one, be prepared for committee meetings by reviewing materials and nominee information in advance. Number two, communicate in advance if you are unable to attend or will arrive late. Thank you, Councilwoman Santana.
That's because I read.
I know, thank you. See, this is, again, when you do committee agreements, it helps to set the standard. Number three, treat nominees, guests, staff, and fellow committee members with respect and professionalism. Number four, be respectful of everyone's time by staying focused and keeping remarks concise and relevant. Number five, share concerns, questions, or conflicts in a timely manner so that they can be addressed appropriately. Number six, practice active listening and allow others to complete their thoughts before responding. Number seven, limit distractions during committee hearings, phone, side conversations, or multitasking. Number eight, maintain fairness and objectivity when evaluating nominees. Number nine, disclose any potential conflicts of interest related to nominees or appointments. Number 10, engage in thoughtful and constructive dialogue, even when there are differing perspectives. Number 11, focus on qualifications, responsibilities, and public impact of the appointment. Number 12, support transparency and accountability in the committee's work. Number 13, respect the role of the chair and establish procedures to ensure orderly and productive meetings. Number 14, assume positive intent while holding one another accountable. And number 15, center the public interest of Cleveland in all discussions and decisions. So those are things that I wanted to offer to the committee for your consideration. And so did anybody have any thoughts, changes, things that you feel like, no, I absolutely cannot do? Oh, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Santana.
Yeah. And I did call, though, and communicate in a timely manner. Nonetheless, do we anticipate meeting on Wednesdays at this time regularly?
So that's what I wanted to talk about. There are two things, Justice. Ideally, yes, beginning in April. Right now, one of the things that I realize is that this March time at this time is not necessarily conducive specifically to our partner, Ms. Ibukun, who also has a conflicting standing policy meeting, and I wanted to be respectful of that. And so that's one of the reasons when I reached out to each committee member, I've been trying to. Actually, it's you. You might be able to answer this question for DPS. I think that moving in April, we're going to start having these on Tuesdays. But I need to know, do you have the set schedule for DPS? Is it going to be every Tuesday?
It's most likely every Tuesday,
Most-
9:30, and then workforce is.
Yeah, I
at
know
1.
workforce.
Okay.
I got the, I do have the schedule for workforce. They're every other. I was just trying to figure out, and generally, how long does your committee last?
Sometimes 2 to 3 hours.
2 to 3 hours. Okay. So that's the thing of getting your schedule, because likely it will probably be like a 12 o'clock on a Tuesday that we're going to meet in April. This month, we're going to have to do another Wednesday, but moving forward, it's going to be Tuesdays.
Okay.
And I just want to confirm the time with everyone, but likely it'll be Tuesdays at 12.
Okay.
And that's based on the need. Just right now, I know we have, I think like 9 to 10 outstanding appointments that we will need to get through. And like I said, there are, my commitment is to get at least the first iteration of all boards and commissions that we have. So everyone will have it, everyone will see the expiration dates, and it will be on an as-needed basis. But there are some that we aren't considering now that are definitely way overdue, and we have to just think through a plan of how we're going to fix those.
And is there a max of candidates that we'll be reviewing at these committee meetings?
So no, in an ideal world, I would not like this meeting to be more than 2 hours, if that. Like I said, we have the upcoming, don't make that face. But it's up to you all. But one of the things is like for the next, like for the port, one of the things I wanted to consider is to bring at least maybe 2 of the candidates up at the same time. You know, we can do it together versus individually, and then we can be more respectful of people's times. But everyone will know, and like some of these should not take exceedingly long, like the ones today. I don't see them taking more than 15 minutes.
Okay.
But it just depends on the pleasure of the committee.
Let's roll.
Are you ready? Okay. All right. So first up, I will call Ms. Sydney Evans. Before I get started, I would like to take roll. Present.
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 Thank you. All right. First, I will call up Ms. Sydney Evans. She is a candidate for consideration for the Cleveland Commission on Black Women and Girls. Hi, good afternoon, Ms. Evans. So for us to get started, can you just briefly introduce yourself to us? Introduce yourself to us, a little bit about your background, and tell us how you think like your skills are relevant to the Cleveland Commission on Black Women and Girls.
So hi everyone, my name is Sydney Evans. I am born and raised here in Cleveland. So I am a product of the CMSD school district by way of Andrew J. Rickoff Elementary School, and then transitioning to the Cleveland School of Science and Medicine at the John Hay campus. With that being said, I decided to continue my education and earn a Bachelor's of Science at Kent State University, where I studied public health and community health outreach and development. And during that time, I became a community health worker. If that's not interesting enough, my senior year was COVID, so I decided to come back home after that. And I enrolled in Jack Joseph Morton Mendel School of Applied Sciences at Case Western Reserve University. So that's why I say I'm a Cleveland kid through and through. I was raised by a Cleveland police detective by the name of Fillmore Evans, and dialysis technician, so she takes care of individuals with failing kidneys. Her name is Bridget Evans. Yeah, so I love Cleveland. I wanted to join this committee in order for it to be my first action as a public servant. I am 27 years old, and when I saw the call for this wonderful committee, I could not turn a blind eye. Currently, I work at the Case Comprehensive Cancer Center, which is a consortium of the Cleveland Clinic, University Hospitals, and the School of Medicine at Case Western Reserve University. There, I do project management. I am a part of a research team called the Cleveland African American Prostate Cancer Project, which you may have seen. We do outreach around prostate cancer through Cleveland barbershops, so we're involved in 19 barbershops. However, as an investigator, I also gather qualitative information around what do 20 to 35-year-olds know about cancer. I'll save that for a different date, not to stress you out, but a part of the committee that really intrigued me was, of course, the Noir Project, and just understanding that Cleveland has been deemed one of the worst places for Black women to live in a major city. And just trying to understand where that data came from, how was that data collected, and what is my role as I document the era, or a public scholar, and just continuing that work in order to really have a knowledgeable investment about how can we counteract these issues within that, in addition to providing an intergenerational perspective as well. Within my work in the city, I've worked with many people, young or who are transitioning into the later years of their careers, and I just see a need to pull everybody together and just really get programming around various health issues and just understanding the research of Cleveland.
Well, thank you so much for that, Ms. Evans. So now I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues. First and foremost, I will start with Councilman Polisic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and my honorable colleagues, and to the well-caring applicant that we have before us. My question to you is this. I've lived in Cleveland all my life as well, on East Side, never lived anyplace else. Born in the Glenville community, and then my mother moved us over into the Collinwood area. When you mention about Cleveland as one of the worst places for African American women to live in the city of Cleveland, touch on that for a moment. What do you point to as the factors that bring that about?
So from the perspective of a social scientist
Right.
and a social science researcher, there is an aspect called aspirational currency. It's one of the forms of currency, so we think about, physical money, but aspirational currency is the analogy of a goldfish. A goldfish only gets as big as its environment. I think that is to play for some of the women in our community, specifically the Black women in our community, of just being exposed to different opportunities and different ways in which that they can fulfill their environment. So I believe that aspirational capital can really grow and help individuals see that there's other things to achieve within the structure of where we are.
Okay. So you're in the health field. Any illnesses or that come to mind that you would point to as prevalent?
So through my research,
Right.
From the perspective of cancer, I could point out three. One being the misdiagnosis of PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. within Black women in our community. The next one is the growing rate of breast cancer within our community, and especially within the age demographic that I'm researching, and just as a whole, not just women, but also the men in our community, is colon cancer and colorectal cancer. Some of these can be contributed to ultra-processed diet and various things, but it's just been a very high spike in being within that 20 to 35 demographic.
And, I appreciate it. And the reason I'm asking is because growing up in the environment that I grew up in of poverty, a mother raising 4 of us by herself, I'm hoping as a result of this effort that we start to look across the board of all indicators, all nationalities, all races, as well in the city. I've lost several dear friends in my neighborhood through breast cancer, including my first cousin. My oldest daughter is dealing with it right now. And so, and she went through 13 weeks of treatment, and she's in remission right now, but I see what she went through and experience what she went through. And so, a lot of the things that I'm experiencing, I'm looking at in my time here as a senior member, has to do, a great part of it has to do with poverty. And then the environmental conditions in which you live. And we know in the city, especially on the east side, we had the proliferation of factories and plants and who were adding to the environmental degradation of our neighborhoods, pollution, you name it. I'm dealing with a site right now that is contaminated with cobalt-60 that I inherited with the redistricting, that I'm working with the Ohio Department of Public Health and trying to figure out what to do with this location and with our own health department. I appreciate the city's engagement. But what I'm hoping as a result of this commission is that when we're not looking at the impact on African American women and young women in the city, but it expands to take a look at all the environmental factors, all the implications we have in this city. Because I just saw, again, as I indicated, I've seen what my own family has experienced that we've gone through, and with friends and family, that we have to take a more broader approach. And hopefully, again, as a result of this endeavor, and I want to thank all my colleagues who've been involved in this process, especially the chairperson, that we start to really take a look at those environmental factors that are affecting our community. Because I don't happen to be black. I'm a Caucasian and of mostly of Slovenian descent, Slovenian, Italian, and a couple other nationalities. But I can just see the impact on my own family of some of these, the trauma. I guess I refer to as trauma of poverty, of lack of medical attention. 2 members of my immediate family have asthma because they weren't properly treated when they were children. They didn't go to get the proper help. And so these are some of the challenges that we're dealing with. That's why when we had our budget hearings, a lot of us were so voiceful about our Department of Public Health. We want to see a more aggressive health department. We want to see more aggressive pertaining to lead contamination in the city. So again, I just want to commend you for stepping up to the plate, because so many of our folks who have the skill level, have the educational level, have the expertise, but won't step up. Don't step up. And so I just want to applaud you for coming to the table. You're a Cleveland resident, which that means a whole lot to me, that you live here and you're concerned about the community. So I want to congratulate you. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Councilwoman Santana.
Thank you, Madam Chair. you had me at Cleveland raised, Cleveland grown, right? I think that, to Council Polanski's point, when you grow up in the city of Cleveland, there's just this experience that,
Yeah.
that you experience that others in the suburbs don't, right? Like you live it firsthand. I do want to talk, you talked a lot about health, community health worker. I'm very familiar with this as my background's public health. I worked at Metro Health for about 10 years developing the first program serving minority women that were presenting in late stage breast cancer. And it was Black and Latino women, right, that lived right down the street. The access, as we, obtained the data, we realized, it wasn't accessible, language barriers, and so forth. I'm sure you learned all that through community health worker. My question is kind of very similar to Councilman Polansik. I serve on the Women's Health Commission, and we are targeting and helping to improve Black and brown women's health, right? But everyone has their own opinion on how to improve that health, how to move the needle forward. When I worked at Metro Health, it's been, 15 years ago, right? And when I look at the data, we're barely moving the needle on Black and brown women. So I'm curious to know if there was one thing that you would start off on in this this Black Girls Commission, what would be that one thing that you would put your most energy on to kind of start the process? Because I know there's tons of things, and we could talk about social determinants of health, we could talk about cancer, colon, and so forth. What is that one thing that you would say, hey group, I think we need to tackle this first before moving forward?
Well, other than gathering qualitative information and holding various focus groups within the wards, I come from an education first approach. People don't necessarily know how to ask questions or have advocacy over their health because they don't know what to be asking. So I think the main thing is providing overall wellness education. I think it would be very alarming to you all just having individuals retrace to me or chattel to me, how would they go about having a care visit? Who would you call? How would you reach out? And some individuals don't even know how to take the first step in order to get a care visit or a primary care visit. So just walking I would start at 18 when individuals, no longer are receiving care from their maternal figure or a guardian figure. Just them taking ownership of their health, them feeling comfortable asking questions and understanding that if you're receiving health and it's not on a track that is within 2 to 3 years, that you're considered a new patient in the system. In emergency situations, this can be dire to your health. So keeping up with those yearly care visits, understanding when should you be receiving various screenings, cancer screenings or not, and just how to overall advocate for yourself when you don't feel right. If you had a car, you would take it to the mechanic when it started to feel a little weird, but people, for some reason, aren't as inclined to do that with their own health. So that's where I would start education.
Right. Yeah, education. Accessibility, you've mentioned a lot too. So anyhow, I love your passion, your energy. You're making me want to meet more with the Black Girl Women's Commission. I would love to show up. And I also see like maybe a partnering opportunity with the County Women's Health Commission because that is our priority through this commission. So thank you, and pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
Next we'll have Councilman Casey.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and through the chair to Ms. Evans, thank you very much for being here. It was many years ago I sat on that side to get an appointment in the city of Cleveland, so I know how nerve-wracking and how your stomach's probably in a knot right now, but just try to relax and we're going to get through this. Through the chair to Ms. Evans, in your opinion, what is the Cleveland Commission on Black Women and Girls?
The Cleveland Commission of Black Women and Girls is very diverse. I love just the commissioners, the age ranges, and their ability to touch various pockets of the community. I think that it is a place or a forum to hold community and be an opportunity for individuals to understand how to strategize and organize on their own, especially given the data that I was given from the Noir Project, but a place that can hold education, can hold advocacy, can hold various community events in which, love and laughter can be there as well during various hard times. So I could just see it as an extension of our Cleveland community.
And then, Madam Chairwoman and Ms. Evans, what would be some of your goals and objectives? It's a 2-year appointment, correct? Oh, it's a 1-year appointment. So within the next year, what's some of the things you'd like to see accomplished?
So I would like to supply the committee with more qualitative information and be able to do thematic analysis of that information. So a part of that would be pulling out major themes. I believe that is a very pinpointed way in order to understand where should some of the lack of a better word, interventions be placed first, because those are kind of at the precipice of what needs to be done. I would also like to use that information to understand how the systems dynamic of the Cleveland community are happening. So with that being said, the creation of causal loop diagrams, they're equivalent of, an HVAC system. So you understand where the air is going, you understand where the hot air is coming in, the cold air is coming in, but being able to map out these various processes so when the council, puts up policy recommendations, that they are very tailored to the experience of community members. If you all cannot tell, I love community participatory research. Nothing is done without the say of the people and the will of the people as well. So I would just see it as qualitative information and just that mapping.
Okay. So, through the chair to Ms. Evans, my reputation on council is attendance and showing up are very important.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you do know what the commitment is. You do plan on attending all the meetings, putting in the time. It's a paid position, so, you won't have a problem with your other jobs or education or anything like that and attending the commissions and stuff like that, correct?
No.
Okay. And then I just want to tell a story real quick, Ms. Chairwoman, to Ms. Evans. I now have the privilege of representing the oldest African American community in the city of Cleveland. And I recently held a community meeting, and the majority of those in attendance were elderly African American women. And I was just introducing myself to this new portion of the city that I now represent. And they were comical but angry at the same time, because they feel that they haven't had, and I'm not knocking anybody who's represented them before, but they felt that they have not had proper representation in the past. So I asked them, why do you feel that way? And their answer was very blunt to me, was because they were black. Okay, and we've always had a Caucasian representing that area. I did everything I could to try to convince them that that would change, because it doesn't matter to me who I represent. But I'm very honored to represent this portion, and I look forward to engaging the individuals who live there and getting them more involved and making them at least feel like their local representation, that they're important to them. But sometimes I may not know how to do that, right? Because it's just a difference in history and culture and everything else. So I am going to be relying on this commission a lot to help me with the integration of the new representation to the individuals who live in this portion of the city. Because one thing that some people seem to forget in the city, and they portray it this way, and sometimes it's our own fault, is people believe that the east side is all African American and the west side is all Caucasian. And that just simply is a falsehood in this city anymore. We are extremely integrated, right? But I look forward to working with the Cleveland Commission on Black women and girls just to help me help them feel like they have representation. And I rely on a lot of my colleagues to do that, especially this one, right? But to see outside forces come in and work with local representation to make people feel like they are important, and they are, but to change that belief that they don't think that they are anymore, I think that should be one of the goals and objections of this commission. And I think it's successful, and I'll look forward to working with you. But one last question is, you live in the city of Cleveland?
Yes.
Not Cleveland Heights?
Oh, I do live in Cleveland Heights. I go to
Okay.
school and I work in Cleveland.
Okay, so we have two addresses for you.
Yes.
Okay, one, I don't want to give your address out.
Thank you.
One is in the city proper, and one is not in the city proper. So my question, Madam Chairwoman, to you is, do you reside in the city proper? Do you reside in the city of Cleveland?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Next we'll have is Councilman Shaw.
Thank you to the chair. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for your presence. It's always good to see a fellow Flash.
Yes.
I also graduated from Kent State, so it's good to have you here. I'm really excited to hear what you bring to the table and to see the work that you want to commit to. And it was clear from your application materials, you've put some thought into this. I wanted to understand kind of what has been your experience, or can you share a time where you have stood up to authority, or you've worked against what the system has been asking you to do or expecting you to do?
So a time that comes to mind is at Kent State University. So unfortunately, my senior year was not only COVID, but it was also overshadowed by racial reckonings happening on our campus. You all might be informed about the situation that happened with The Rock. So a student group came in and put on The Rock, Black Lives Matter. The next day it read White Lives Matter, and blacks have no home here. At that time of thinking about freshmen who not only they're going through a whole pandemic, but they're isolated in their dorm rooms and they're seeing this information. And I've been here for about 4 years. I organized, and also during that time, I was the senator for the College of Public Health, and racism was deemed as a public health crisis. So seeing that information, we not only tie our funds together, we overlaid The Rock with positive messaging. It was once again vandalized after that. Staff did not do anything. The president did not do anything. They said it was an aspect of freedom of speech. And so therefore we decided to protest. Putting together a protest was not on my bingo card during that time, but it taught me so much. And during that time, I also sought information from the Center of Disease Control and just other public health professionals. And the best information that I could glean is that it was very important to have a physical aspect of acknowledging the Black history and the Black organizations that were at the school that have served the school for 50 plus years. So during that time, I wrote a letter to Kent State and saying this is an aspect of when they can make history again. Through that, There are something called the Divine Nine organizations. They're historically black sororities and fraternities that have been at the university since the university has started. And so I worked with the council president during that time, and I was able to get the university to put in on what are called plots. Plots are monuments that honor the various individuals who charter organizations. And so it gave homage to them of being, you know, in the spot that we were in, but fostering a place in which individuals can volunteer. There was food programs for the neighboring children in the community, and just various ways in which people could get involved in the school process, but also the political process as well. Just a shout out, you know, Kent State was the founder of Black History Week. And so that momentum and that pride as an alumni or during that time as a student still carries on in our in the Black Student Union. And so I used all of this messaging and different professionals through the Black Student Association in order to come through this. Individuals did not want plots to be there, but they're there. And they will be there until the university is no longer there. So
I appreciate you sharing that. And you know, part of the reason why I ask, and I imagine you already understand this through your lived experiences, is the fact that, you know, it's not a coincidence that the condition of what Black women and girls are faced with in the city of Cleveland doesn't happen. It's not happenstance, right? There has been very real discrimination and prejudice that have brought about these conditions, and oftentimes the commission is going to have to stand up for itself and to fight for the things that it's advocating for, and that is where I'm hoping that we will have that same tenor and spirit that has driven you throughout your advocacy to bring that to the commission as well, and not be afraid to advocate, and I see that through and through here, so I appreciate that. Can you just, and my final question will be, can you just share a time where you've built consensus or where you've brought people together in order to stand up for what you believe is right, and how you would plan to bring that for the commission as well?
So one example that I can give is being an advisor for a student group within the first year of my master's program. So we have an organization called Twing Study Over. It was created because K students are very stressed from time to time, and it was a way in order to create programming around finals time and midterms time. This Twing Study Over is a place in which students can come and bring their books and study. And I worked with, or us as a committee, and me being the advisor, we worked with 50 different food vendors. So the food would change every 30 minutes. Prizes were done on the hour, every hour. It was programming both inside and outside the building. And it was just me and my small committee of 7 students. With that being said, not only are they navigating their academic experience, but they're also navigating their community experience as students and as student leaders. So just keeping them grounded. I'm a principled based type of person, and just having them be thorough in their approach, and just gleaning all the knowledge. So just reaching out to various people to get a quote, and you know, how does your professionalism come across during those times? You know, if committee members aren't necessarily pulling their weight per se, how do you have conversations? And I just saw my students grow so much, and I was able to contribute to not only their experience as committee members, but also they tell me that, you know, they learn how to speak up for themselves. They learn how to be knowledgeable, how to process conflict and how to, mediate conflict as well. How to have the diplomatic process, how to do Robert's rules. So just instilling those various things within my students and just them taking ownership is a time in which I feel like I made a very big impact with just having various people look at things various ways.
Thank you. I yield, Chair. Thank you for your time.
I have a question. Ms. Evans, when did you initially first apply to the Cleveland Commission on Black Women and Girls?
So I applied about a year and a half. I saw the posting in Signal Cleveland. So, every morning I get up and I read the newspaper and just try and understand what's going on in our world. And I saw the role and I fell in love with it. And I saw that it was a call for an individual who was a university student or a college-age student, and I thought that would be the perfect way in which I can start getting involved in our political process and beginning my journey as a public servant.
Okay, and the question, are you currently in college right now? Can you
Yes.
explain, where are you and what are you doing?
So I'm still at the Jack Joseph Morton Mendel School of Applied Sciences. Right now, I'm in the third year of my PhD program. I have some time left. I have not gotten to the point in which I move from a PhD student to a PhD candidate. I will move during that portion through the summer where I become a candidate, and I will begin to embark on the journey of my dissertation. So I see myself still being a student for the next 2.5 years.
Okay. Any other questions, Casey? Councilman Casey.
No, Madam Chairwoman, as this committee is just starting to meet and we're laying ground rules, right? Madam Chairwoman and Ms. Evans, you have two different addresses here, right? And one of your, when your original application, you put 6,700, right? And that's not a residency. Just hear me out, okay? So I'm not going to hold this up, because of that. And then another council person asked you, you're a resident of the city of Cleveland, yes. And then I asked you, now it's Cleveland Heights. So one of the things that I'm going to be very picky about are actually okaying Cleveland residents for these boards. Now, this is a little different because this is brand new, it's up and running, and I get that. But when I look at two different answers and then I hear two different things at the table, it raises a red flag. So, again, I'm going to wish you all the luck, and I'm not going to step in the way of this. But when it comes to at least facing the council, I don't want to use the term honesty, but throwing up red flags is a thing for us, right? So I don't know why you would put Euclid Avenue down, but I get that maybe that's where you were working or what have you. But going forward, Madam Chairwoman, when we have Cleveland appointees, right? I think we should really, really try to put Cleveland. And again, you're born, you're raised. I'm not questioning your love or dedication to the city of Cleveland.
Can I do a point of clarification, please?
Yeah.
So the point of clarification is that the actual application said either work or home address. I put my work address just because the application said that was an address that could be warranted on that application.
Okay. And again, this is brand new, so we could be learning on this side as well.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? We need to be maybe a little bit more, listen, I think you're going to be a great asset to the board, right? And I think I'm bringing this up for us on this side as well. But when we have Cleveland appointments and their paid board, this is a paid board, right? We're always this council's always screaming about, hiring Clevelanders and, CBAs and all that other stuff. So, we ourselves have to make sure that we have the back of Clevelanders as well. But again, I don't think you're going to have a problem getting through here. And I think I'm just talking out loud for our members on this side as well. But, again, I just wanted to raise that issue. Thank you.
Councilman Shaw.
Thank you. And I appreciate Councilman Casey's line of questioning. Kind of going to that same effect, I think in the future I also plan on making sure that we have Cleveland appointees. However, what I would also point out is I have a very, there's, as a student, where you reside and what your home is not always the case for, where you are in that moment in time. It's a very transitory period. As an immigrant, as a student that has lived all around Cuyahoga County and Summit County, at any one point you could ask me where I live and I could give you 2 to 3 addresses. So I can understand that. And I think for students it is a different case. And it reminds me of my time at law school at Case, where we understood where someone is domiciled. There's a legal definition. There's an emotional definition as well. And I'm always going to, I think, give special leeway for students in that transition period. And I think it would, anything outside of students, I think it's a different case. And in the future, I think we should also be aware of that. But for me, the fact that you are a student and in this phase, and I'm also curious, just you don't have to share this if you're not comfortable, but do you mind sharing this? How much is your rent in Cleveland Heights?
$1,200.
And if you had a similar place that you could rent that was safe in Cleveland that was within walking distance to your college, would that have made a difference?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right, because I remember,
Yes.
like I said, I was at Case as well, and unfortunately this is a reality of our city where we do not have the same housing stock or the affordable or safe housing stock as Cleveland Heights does, especially for students historically, especially in that region. And I know with some of the development that's been happening, now it means that you can either live in Cleveland and pay a rent that most people can't afford, or you can choose to live in Cleveland Heights, where traditionally there has been that student housing stock. So I completely understand. And with that, I yield, Chair.
Thank you so much for that, Councilman. So I'm going to give just a couple of contexts before we finish with Ms. Evans. A couple of things. The Cleveland Commission on Black Women and Girls was started as a response to Bloomberg did this report in 2020 outlining, that specifically in health outcomes, educational outcomes, and economic outcomes, that Cleveland was the worst city for Black women in the country. From there, there had been another more Cleveland-focused paper from Project Noir that kind of went and add, I would say, the more qualitative data from Black women in our area, in our region, to give the terms. Working with the administration, we came up with the Cleveland Commission on Black Women and Girls. One of the things he said in the initial legislation, which we are revising, is that we came up with specific categories, that there were 8 designated categories of what the commission is. We have found in the commission is that some of the people that were applying according to a category lived in various places, not in Cleveland. And so moving forward, and one of the reasons why I specifically advocated for Ms. Evans and Ms. Nelson that will be coming before the commission is because these have been candidates who the commission itself put forth, but literally they have been waiting in over 7 months from the point that the commission, but they had applied in 2024. And it has just taken extremely too long to get them to this process. And like I said, moving forward as the commission itself, the chair and the vice chair, which I am meeting with, to let them know as we have vacancies, they're going to have 4 months to fill vacancies. And to bring candidates forward. So we will not continue to do this months, years long, waiting on things, and that is literally an expectation. And we will be changing these 8 designated categories on the commission. Half of them will be the focused areas, and then there will be another 4 that will be just general members so that we can get over this thing of having the disconnect between Cleveland residents and those who reside outside of the community, because there is a requirement, like the union one in particular, the medical doctor in particular. We are going to remove those, so this isn't a barrier, and we do not have these consistent vacancies. But I thought it was fair for someone who had applied, had been interviewed, to just sit lingering for months and months. I just feel very strongly we just need the capacity on the commission, and that's why I've continued to advocate for months to get at least these 2 candidates through and moving forward as we change the legislation. We will not run afoul when it comes to residency, to provide clarification. Are there any other comments you would like to say, Ms. Evans? No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I don't know if we have that. Do we just need to sign it? All those? Okay. So for all of those who are in favor of recommending Ms. Evans to the Cleveland Commission on Black Women and Girls, we'll take a roll call for this. Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, and everybody can please sign the recommendation letter. Thank you so much, Ms. Evans. As they're treasurer now, I will now bring up Mr. Reeve. There is Mr. Smoot? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. As we know, this is the Mr. Lucas Reeves, who is for consideration for the Fair Employment Wage Board. We have Attorney Louis Smoot, who is the attorney for the Fair Wage and Employment Board, who is joining in the event that there is a question that Mr. Reeve does not know. As we are getting started, similarly, Mr. Reeve, good afternoon, welcome. And would like to have just an opening introduction, who you are, and how your experience is aligned to serving on the Fair Employment Wage Board.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me here this afternoon. Lucas Reeve. I work in the mayor's office as a senior advisor. Proud Clevelander, resident of the Old Brooklyn neighborhood. Prior to joining the administration here with the city of Cleveland, had the distinct honor of leading the Old Brooklyn Community Development Corporation. And so much of my experience is around community development, meeting with folks and helping to advance the priorities of neighborhoods like Old Brooklyn and those across the city, as I now work citywide with the mayor's administration. Previous to that, I was working in real estate development, primarily hospitality real estate development, and prior to that, which seems like forever ago, was also working in the hospitality industry. For me, I think that when I was approached with the opportunity to join this board, I wanted to take the time to connect, first to understand the work that they do, how critically important it is, but also to speak with folks that, were our colleagues of mine who had spent time on this board previously, to understand their experience and where the board is at and what its next steps are to continue to grow in its effectiveness in service of workers across the city. And I think I was invigorated and excited by both the work that the board is charged with, but also at the same time, the opportunities in front of it to continue to be more and more effective in service of workers across the city of Cleveland.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I'm going to just go down the list for council members. Councilman Polinsik, do you have any questions? Okay,
I
Councilman.
have a question.
Yes. I'm going to. He's just there for questions. We're not interviewing him.
So through the chair, hi, Mr. Reese, finally get a chance to meet you in person. So you work for the mayor as a special assistant. I'm a little confused through the chair, so are you getting paid to be on this board? Or why can't you just work in alignment with this board as the mayor's special assistants?
So to answer your first question, this is not a paid board appointment in any way. This is, I think, in a lot of ways, trying to ensure that the administration is in lockstep with the work of this board, understanding that many of the departments across the city are interfacing and are critically important to the work of the board. And so having somebody, I think, that can help to ensure that we have best practices that we're following, that communication is strong, and that we're advancing this work, I think is what makes it valuable to have somebody from the mayor's office on the board.
Got it, okay. And through the chair, I don't know much about this board. How many members do they have on this board?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, it is a 7-person board with 5 folks who are currently on it. And just to add to his previous answer, 18904 of the codified ordinances designates a representative from the mayor's office to the board.
Got it, okay. And so I do want to ask you some questions. You talked just what your experience and so forth. In your resume, I'm sorry, I got to put my readers on here. You talked about the ability to create shared vision, inspire collaboration, and drive change, expert in managing diverse, cross-functional efforts. I'm curious to know, once you get there, like, what are you going to be working on? What's your agenda? What gets you most excited about being part of this board?
My understanding of much of the work that the board has undertaken over the last couple years has really been building a strong foundation for this work. And so I think acknowledging that I'm not yet appointed to the board, and certainly I think a lot of learning will go on as I meet fellow board members and get a much better understanding of the work itself. But I think being able to center people in this work is incredibly important. I think, as you look at the various pieces of law that relate to the work that the board oversees, obviously the intention behind those is to protect workers. But I think we also sometimes get caught up in laws and processes, and being able to really center people in this work is where I'm hoping to come from, understanding that when a complaint is lodged, that there is a very real person, that is making that complaint in whatever means and method they're doing it, whether they're doing it through the website or on the phone or at a job site. These are real people. We had a representative here earlier, and you were, Councilwoman, talking about the social determinants of health, right? To me, these are quality of life issues. These are people-centric issues. These are social determinant of health-related issues in terms of, folks' employment, being paid fair wages for the work that they are doing, having employment security. All these things are very basic to me in terms of rights for folks. And so I think, I hope that answer satisfies the question that you have, but that is kind of the mindset and the approach that I'll come to this work with. And as I have a chance to connect with my potential colleagues on this board and learn more about this work, I hope to continue to evolve my ability to help shape it, but always come from that place of being very people-centric.
Got it. And I would share with you, I get a lot of non-English speakers, right, who work in the manufacturing and hotel industry that, they go through this process, right? And their checks are being withheld, or they're cutting their hours last minute, right? And so they go through this process, but they don't have an entry point because of the language barriers. I just want to put that on your radar as something that I'm very passionate about and working on. On another note, I want to talk about the transparency legislation in alignment with this workforce group. Let's just say someone from the city of Cleveland, a director, does interviews, and they ask them, knowing that we sponsored the legislation, and they ask them, how much did you make in your previous, job? How would you handle that, being on the board, if you were to get that complaint from someone that's a director here?
So as I understand the scenario that you pointed out, the complaint likely would come from a potential applicant who's
Yes.
interviewing with a director, let's say, within the administration.
That wants the job really bad,
Yeah.
but is scared, right?
Yeah.
And in fear of not being able to get the job because they will report this director.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, I think that when someone takes the step of formalizing a complaint, that's a very courageous act that person is undertaking. I think we have to recognize that, unfortunately, specifically as it relates to this work, there are so many people that do not feel empowered or have the agency to do that. And so I think first and foremost, we have to make sure that people have every opportunity and feel empowered to do so. You had been highlighting previously the language barriers and things like that. There should be no language barriers that prevent anyone from doing something like this. I think the other thing that comes to mind for me in the scenario that you outlined is that I think education and awareness is a big part of this too. And I think that's a big part of the work of this board. It sounds like much of that work is ongoing, but I think that work can never end. Not to say that in this scenario, as you highlighted, that a director within the city of Cleveland should not understand this law. But I think we need to constantly be working to make sure that people do understand that and recognize that that's not something that can be a part of the interview process. And is intended to ensure that we're protecting the folks that are hungry for those jobs.
Yeah, thank you. And I would just close with this, we have to start in-house first. Oftentimes we want to start educating outside of these four walls when in our own house, these things are happening. And so hopefully we could allocate more, whatever, if it's funding, it's energy, on education, and holding people accountable that continue doing this type of, situation, event. Okay, I yield, thank you.
All right, next we have is Councilman Shaw.
Thank you to the chair. Good afternoon, Mr. Reeves. Appreciate your time being here. As council's representative on the board, I am excited to see that the mayor has gotten around to getting this position filled. And just to clarify, can you, this is the position that was previously held by Kate Warren, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I wanted to kind of go through a few different questions. I wanted to kind of start with a more basic level of capacity. I see here you have quite a number of boards and other engagements that you're a member of right now. How do you anticipate juggling those responsibilities on top of your work addition to this?
I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is that some of the other board work that I do, I think is actually additive and informative to this work. I will highlight one in particular that I feel incredibly privileged and honored to serve on, which is the board of Global Cleveland. As Councilwoman Santana highlighted with some other communities here in the city of Cleveland that these types of issues adversely impact. Whether it's through my work on the Global Cleveland board or time spent in the hospitality industry where I saw groups specifically targeted in this way from a fair employment perspective. And the work with the Global Cleveland board has very much highlighted for me on a regular basis the challenges that our refugees, immigrant, and newcomer communities face. Forget about all the other challenges that they face in their day-to-day life, whether it's housing, language barriers, these types of things. But employment is such a critically important piece of that. And so I hope to, I guess first in directly answering your question, I don't anticipate any issues with any of the other work that I do and any of the other boards that I serve on. But I hope to bring a perspective from those other groups that I'm a part of in that firsthand knowledge of what this means for folks from a day-to-day perspective and how I can be a part of helping to make things right and just.
I appreciate that. And then I wanted to also understand, the senior advisor to the mayor is a pretty broad title. Pardon me for my ignorance. I just started recently, so I wanted to understand. Can you talk a little bit about what are the specific projects or things that you have worked on in this capacity in the administration?
Sure, happy to do it. I think you rightly point out that it's a pretty broad job description. I sometimes jokingly describe it as the other duties as assigned section in the job description that you get. But essentially, much of my work really focuses on building relationships both internally and externally. So whether it's here interdepartmentally, within City Hall, with folks on City Council, or working externally with various stakeholders to advance key priorities of the mayor's office. That's where I generally see much of my work falling into those categories. I think one of the things that I learned very much from my time in community development in Old Brooklyn was that really to do community development, you've got to meet folks where they're at. You've got to build relationships out in the community. And so I push myself in my role in the mayor's office to spend as little time in my actual office as I possibly can, spending time out on the streets in the neighborhoods, talking to folks to help advance and inform the work that we're doing. Specifically in terms of projects, recently been doing a lot of work around on-street parking reform, some off-street parking reforms that were passed last year through City Council to help increase safety downtown specifically for folks that use those facilities. And then also quite a bit of work related to shore to quarter shore, but specifically around the core element of things. So downtown Cleveland related, whether it's being involved on the conversations around Burke, being involved with the analysis and work on Gateway and stadium funding and things like that. I find myself spending a lot of times in those areas, trying to, number one, as I stressed earlier, build relationships that are important to advancing that work, understanding where folks are coming from, what their positions are on certain things, and then being able to translate that into actionable plans that we can move forward that make a difference.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That helps kind of understand, what you're going to be bringing to the table. And I absolutely see already, through my brief time on the board, the need for alignment across administration and council on what the board is working on to make sure, for example, I think one of the things we were talking about at the last meeting was trying to understand how can we get data that the city already has in order to verify the number of employers, for example, that employees that an employer might have, so they fit within the statute, right? And one of the things we floated was potentially getting that data from the tax folks down in CCA or something like that. And for that, I imagine having somebody who's at a senior level in the administration would help us kind of cut through the communication silos that are ample in City Hall, is what I'm finding. So that makes sense. I wanted to, get to also, while that senior access and the building relationships I think is critical, I wanted to also understand that I'm going to ask you the same question I asked our previous candidate, because I think it gets to something that's important. I'll follow up with that. But can you tell me a little bit more about how do you approach working against authority or making sure that what you believe is you can stand close to your principles, even in the face of resistance from other folks you're working with around, above you, whether that may be the mayor or not. I wanted to understand kind of what is, if you want to share something from your past or even in your current role, where you believe you've been able to stick to that and what you would bring to the board as well, because I think that is going to be an important aspect of this work.
Yeah, great question. I thought it was a great question when you asked the previous candidate as well. I think for me, it's very much, when I think about doing what's right, it's always very obvious to me because it's a very guttural reaction that I get. I have a really hard time going, whether it's in my work or personal life, if something doesn't feel right to me, it's not something that I can easily pass by without, at least exploring doing something about it. So for me, I think if I could maybe provide a bit of an example, I guess also I would say that when you think about authority and pushing back against someone who's in a position of authority, I think first and foremost,
Could be systems too. Doesn't have to be an individual.
of course, that's right.
Yeah.
Excellent point. I think, and maybe perhaps even more importantly with systems, I think you need to understand whether it's an authority figure, where they're coming from, what their position is, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable, the direction that they're moving in, or a statement that they've expressed on a particular issue. I think first coming from a place of at least understanding what their thought process is behind it, or whether it's a system, how is that system designed? Every system is designed to get the outputs that it gets, and so how is that system designed? And then think about, I always come from a place of wanting to communicate and meet with people face to face. So who are operating those systems, who design those systems, what's the intent behind them, who are the folks that are pushing a particular agenda or issue, meet with them and not only understand and seek to understand their point of view, but make sure that they understand mine too. And then, it's not always the case that you can come to a place where there's some type of alignment and actionable plan that you can move forward in a place where whatever the issue, the unintended or intended, oftentimes outcome is the one that's happening. But that's always the way that I approach it, is trying to figure out how we can come to a place where there's some level of compromise. And I also like to point out in my answer as well that a big part of having conversations and seeking to listen and understand is looking for blind spots in my own approach to things too. Like maybe my initial reaction to that level of authority wasn't right, and so I can feel a little bit more comfortable and confident having gone through that process. But that's typically how I think about those things. If you want, I can give you maybe a small example from some community development work in Old Brooklyn.
Please.
One of the very first things that we were faced with in Old Brooklyn when I first joined the team there was a chain of dollar stores that was very interested in our market. In Old Brooklyn, it's a classic middle neighborhood. Even now, to this day, there's not a single grocery store that exists in Old Brooklyn. And so, one of the first things that we did was organize the community around pushing back against this dollar store's intention to open their business in our neighborhood in Old Brooklyn. Working with city council, working with the administration at the time to put through legislation, that eventually established a moratorium and radius restriction on these dollar stores. Much of that work was driven by community organizing and pushing back against someone that wanted to do something that wasn't to the benefit of our neighborhood. And we felt very strongly, and I continue to feel very strongly about the CDC ecosystem in general being such a critically important part of the work that we do across the city in having them take a stand for important neighborhood issues like that. And I think, one of the lessons that I learned from that experience was that, one, meeting with community members and helping to educate and inform them about what's happening, but getting their thoughts and getting them excited about advocacy around an important neighborhood issue was really important. And two, being able to take that to city council and the administration with some options and ideas about how we could help prevent a predatory group like that opening up in our neighborhood.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. That makes sense. One of my final questions is just regarding, inherently, this role, just like your current role, is a political one, and there are going to be potential conflicts. I wanted to understand how you view, let's say, for example, there is a complaint from a employer that has provided sizable contributions to a political candidate or even the mayor, for example. Do you believe that would be a conflict for you to be involved in that, or do you believe that you would, how would you deal with that? I wanted to understand. Has there been any discussions between you and the mayor of setting up some sort of a firewall, or how would that kind of process play forward? Because to me, really is to maintain the independence and integrity of the board. I think it would be important. I'm sure it would be yours as well. So I wanted to just kind of understand how would you approach such a situation?
Sure. I think first and foremost, any time that issues like that come up or could potentially come up around this board appointment, I always seek the advice of folks in the law department whose work it is to help guide us and navigate us through these types of issues. So that would be my first stop is to talk with the folks down there from a just their guidance would be foundational to me in whatever next steps were necessary. I think obviously the work of the board exists beyond its members, and so far be it for me to negatively impact the board in any way. I want to make sure that they operate with integrity, and I operate with integrity as well. And so if any issues came up like that, I'd want to get that guidance and then move forward with whatever guidance I was given, whether to recuse myself from those particular conversations or whether it's something to go after, with with all the same, gusto that I would any other challenge or issue that comes up around this.
Absolutely. Thank you for your responses. Yield Chair. Thank you.
All right, next we have is Councilman Casey.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Madam Chairwoman, to Mr. Reeve, thanks for being here today. In your own perspective, what is the Fair Wage Employment Board? What's going to be your role and responsibility there?
I think I'll sort of split your question kind of into two different parts. I think first, the Fair Employment Wage Board is really there to protect workers' rights as it relates to various chapters, whether it's 189, 190, 669. But I think also, and as we talked about in a few of the other answers that I gave here, there's of course the employer piece as well, making sure that they have education and awareness around these issues, and we're holding them accountable to them. So I think there's sort of two pieces there. It's on the employee side and also on the employer side as well.
Okay.
And if I could, just
Go
in
ahead.
terms of my role, I think being able to work from inside City Hall cross-departmentally to ensure that the work of the board is moving forward, but also, as Councilman Shaw pointed out, if there are areas that we can improve our processes, that we can enhance best practices and be more effective as a board, being able to think creatively about those things is also a place where I think I could be very helpful.
All right, Madam Chairwoman, to Mr. Reeve, how long have you been with the city?
I've been with the City of Cleveland a little bit over a year now.
Okay, and you're appointed, correct? You're not civil service? You an at will?
Yes, that's correct.
Right, you're not, you didn't go through the civil service. So being at will, the mayor could wake up in the morning and you no longer have a job. Not, I don't know anything inside, don't get me wrong, but you're at will, correct? I mean,
That's correct.
Right, which does bring up just a red flag, as you heard me say earlier, and again, I'm not going to hold up an appointment, but it's a red flag where, and I understand that we need somebody from the mayor's office, right, on the board as per the charter. But if there is a conflict with the city, right, I mean, it's a smoother process if we have an individual there who is at least protected from the city through civil service as it is an appointed position, if you know what I'm saying. And again, I'm not saying you're going to do anything unethical. I'm just saying potential situations that could come up, or we wouldn't want to see you get jackpotted up because somebody's complaining about the city and you're still a city employee and you're an at-will city employee, as opposed to a civil somebody who's civil service. And where does the conflict lie, right? And that's a terrible position to be in if it's you, right? And again, I understand somebody from the mayor's office, but I just would hope that if something like that does come up, right, that you don't ever have to choose between doing what you ethically believe would be right for the board, but still having, your employment with the city of Cleveland. And not that anybody would threaten you or anything like that, but I'm just saying a potential situation that you could be put into. And then my last question is, when you were giving your description as your other duties, is, and again, you've heard us during budget hearings about the special assistants to, the mayor and everything, and we don't know who they are or what they do. But I heard your description. Do you do anything as a special assistant to the mayor outside of downtown?
Yes, absolutely. It's not specific to
Right.
downtown.
Yeah,
but
I just heard waterfront, gateway,
Yeah.
parking. I was just wondering if you have any other duties to what we would consider neighborhoods outside of downtown.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, even
Okay.
even parking exists outside of downtown. So certainly, my focus is not entirely on downtown.
Okay.
It's working
All right.
citywide.
All right. Well, one of your things was communication and getting to know people, right? I've never met you, right? So give us a call, right? If you haven't individually met with council members yet, it would be a good, it'd be a good relationship to start building. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Thank you. Councilman Pawlicek.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, honorable colleagues, and to Mr. Reeve, and to the administration. Who's presently on the board now?
Through the chair to the council person, there are 5 names that are currently on the board, 6 including Councilman Shaw now.
Okay,
But
keep
there
going.
are Chairman Matt Ashton, Vice Chair Bishop Eugene Ward, John Hodge, Helen Chin, and Camilo Villa.
Okay. And so there's 2 vacancies?
Well, with the addition of Councilman Shaw now through the chair to the council person, there is now 6, so there would be only 1.
Only 1, okay. And it was indicated, Mr. Reeve, you're a resident of the city of Cleveland, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, okay. How often does the wage board meet? Whoever can answer.
Through the chair to the councilman, that would be monthly meetings. Typically, they have been towards the last Friday of the month at a location which is at the Ohio Means Jobs Building, 3rd floor.
Okay. And is there a report? Is someone taking notes? Is there a recording secretary?
Through the chair to the councilman, yes, there are minutes that are posted on the city's website as well.
They are.
So those will be in there, and then yes, there are documents of that as well. And those are also open public meetings as well, and members of the public have started to show up.
So after every meeting, within some period of time, the discussion that took place is posted.
All righty. Okay. Well, I guess all those in favor in recommending Lucas Reeves for the Fair Wage Employment Board, Fair Wage Employment Board, I'll just call the roll. Yes.
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 Thank you very much. Please sign the appointment letter. And now, congratulations. And I will close our mayor's appointment committee. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.